YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to do your outside pre-trip inspection. This is a 2014 Volvo 2-axle decap tractor and trailer. So we're going to do our outside pre-trip for Class A. Now on the outside pre-trip inspection, we'll start off with these 5 lights up on top. These are my ID marker lights, and if you wanted to add your clearance lights on your trailer, you're welcome to add them here. They are properly mounted secure, they're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present, and they are amber in color. Now the 3 in the middle are my ID lights. The 2 on the side are my marker lights, and I also have 2 amber color marker clearance lights up on top of the trailer. From there, we're going to move on to our headlight assembly. Make sure that when you talk about the headlight assembly that you mention all of it. We're going to say it's all properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It is clean and clear. It's not cracked or damaged in any way. Now this clear light serves as my high and my low beam. And I also have an amber color light bulb here on the side. This one serves 3 functions. It's a left-right turn signal. It's a running light, and it is a 4-way emergency flasher. Now I also have an amber color reflector here on the side, which is also properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. From there, we're going to go ahead and move under the vehicle and make sure that we have no kinds of puddling, no visible leaks of any kind, like coolant, fuel, power steering, hydraulic. There's no leaks under there, and we're also going to check to make sure there's no wires and hoses dangling. Now I'm going to step back before I move on to the engine compartment, and you can either do this first or do this last. We're going to do a general overview of the truck itself just to make sure it's not leaning to one side or the other. Now if it was leaning to one side or the other, that would indicate that something could be wrong with the suspension, could be damaged. I have a flat tire or low tire, or I might have uneven load back there. Maybe my load is shifted to one side or the other, which I don't. Now we're going to go ahead and open the hood and check the passenger side. Now in this unit, we have to open the hood from underneath the steering wheel, which is what I'm going to do right now. Now in order to open the hood, I'm going to have to pull this handle, and that pops my hood open. Now we can go ahead and move to the passenger side of the engine compartment. Now after you've unlatched the hood, you're going to go ahead and look down this side of the truck, and then we're also going to look down this side of the truck and make sure it's clear of any objects or people or anybody in the way. So we want to do this safely. 3 points of contact. I'm also going to yell out clear prior to opening the hood. Clear, and then open it safely. Nice and safe. Now I'm going to direct the instructor to the passenger side of the engine compartment. Now we're on the passenger side of the engine compartment. First, we're going to do a general overview of all my wires and hoses, making sure they're all properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. My hoses are not cut, ripped, or torn. And I see and hear no leaks. From there, we're going to check and make sure all the wires are not cut, ripped, or torn, grounding. There's no exposed wire, excess electrical tape. From there, I'm going to move on to my coolant reservoir. I'm going to check the coolant reservoir to make sure it's properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present. It is not cracked, and I see no visible leaks. I'm also going to check to make sure all of the coolant hoses are also properly mounted secure. They're not cut, ripped, or torn, and they also have no visible leaks. From there, we're going to move to checking the level. Now, my coolant reservoir is clear, and it does show me the level. Now, if I needed to add more, I'd remove the cap on top, fill it to the proper level, make sure the cap is on nice and tight once I'm done. Now from there, I'm going to go ahead and move to the driver's side of the engine bay. Now we're at the driver's side of the engine bay. From here, we're going to go ahead and do a general overview of the wires and hoses again. And I'm simply going to explain to the examiner that I'm going to check my wires and hoses the same way I showed them on the other side. And then I'm going to move on to my oil dipstick. Now my oil dipstick is located right here. I'm going to check it to make sure it's properly mounted secure. It is not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It's not cracked, and I see no visible oil leaks anywhere. Now I'm going to use that to check the oil, and the way I would check it is I'm going to pull it out, I'll wipe it clean with a rag, put it back in, and then pull it out again. I'll make sure that it's between add and full. Now if I needed to add more oil, I'm going to fill it 1 gallon at a time right here at the oil fill tube, and then recheck the oil as needed. If I needed to add more, I'd fill it 1 gallon at a time, make sure I have enough. Once I have enough, then I'll go ahead and put everything back where it belongs, making sure it's all properly mounted and secure. From there, I'm going to move on to my steering linkage system. Now, I'm going to start with my power steering reservoir, which is located right here next to my oil fill tube and my dipstick. It does say power steering fluid on it. Now, my power steering reservoir is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It's not cracked, and I see no visible leaks on it. Now, if I needed to add more, I remove the cap, check the level, and fill it to the proper level if it needs more oil. From there, I'm going to go ahead and move to my steering column. My steering column, along with U-joints, are properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It's not bent, cracked, or damaged in any way. My U-joints are also properly greased. They're not worn out. They're in good condition. From there, I'm going to move on to my gearbox. Now, my power steering gearbox is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It's not bent, cracked, or damaged. And I do not see no leaks. I'm also going to check to make sure that my hoses are also properly mounted secure. Not broken, loose, or missing. They're not cracked, and I see no visible leaks coming out of my gearbox hoses. Okay, from there we're going to go ahead and move into our pitman arm, which is located right here. It is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. Then we're going to move to the drag link, which is located right here. That one's also properly mounted secure. Not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present on that one. From there, we're going to go ahead and move to our upper and our lower knuckle, which is in the back, which is also properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. And then the last one we're going to check is the tie rod, which is right here. The tie rod and the tie rod ends, or tie rod arms, which are also properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. Now, my steering linkage is all secure with castle nuts and cotter pins in place. And they also have ball joints and bushings, which are all properly greased. They're not worn out, and they're all in good condition. Now, we're going to go ahead and move into the frame. From here, we're going to check our frame, which is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It's not bent, cracked, broken, or damaged. There's no illegal holds, illegal welds. Now, I am going to mention that I'm going to check my frame front to back, all the way down to the trailer, and check the trailer frame as well, the same way I'm checking it here on both sides of the vehicle. Now I'm going to go ahead and move into my suspension system. So on my suspension, I'm going to start with my spring mount, which is right here. It is properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. And under here are my leaf springs. They're properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. They're not cracked, shifted, or scissoring. From there, I'm going to move on to the 2 U-bolts, which are properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. And then I'll point to the back and make sure I mention that my spring hanger, which is located in the back, is also properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. Now, the last piece on my suspension system is going to be my shock absorber, which is located right here. That one is properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present. It's not cracked, and it's not leaking any fluids. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into my brake system. Now my brake system, I'm going to start with this small line right here, which is a brake line. It is a wire that's connected to the ABS system. I'll make sure that that one's properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, missing. That wire is not cut, ripped, or torn. It's not frayed. I don't see any exposed wire, and it's in good condition. From there, I'm going to move on to my brake hose, which is an air hose. That one is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. There's no abrasions, bubbles, or cuts. It's not dry or cracked. And I hear nothing leaking out of it, right? There's no air leaks. From there, I'm going to move on to my brake pads and my brake drum. Now I have my brake pads and my brake drum. My drum is on the outside. My pads are there, or my shoes, or my brake lining, whichever you choose to call it. So my brake shoes and my brake drum are properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present. Nothing is cracked or damaged in any way. And there's no contaminants between the pad and the drum that will cause my brakes to fail, like oil, grease, mud. And I'm also going to make sure that my pads aren't worn dangerously thin. No less than 1/4 inch of thickness on my shoes, on the pads on my shoes. And I'm also going to make sure that my drum shows no signs of bluing, which would indicate that these brakes overheated at any point, or that my brakes might be ill-adjusted. Now I'm going to go ahead and move into my rims and tires. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with my tires. I'm going to make sure that my tires are properly mounted to the rim. They're properly beaded to the rim, both on the inner and outer wall. I'll make sure there's no abrasions, bubbles, or cuts on the inner and outer walls of these tires. I'm also going to make sure that they're worn evenly. There's no gouges or chunks missing. I'm also going to make sure that I have enough tread on my tires, no less than 4/32 of tread on every major groove of these tires. Now, if these tires needed to be replaced, I'd make sure that I replace them with brand new tires, a matching set, matching everything about these tires. I will not replace these tires with recap, retreaded, or regrooved tires. Now, the last thing I'm going to check on these tires is to make sure that they're 90 to 110 PSI, or whatever the manufacturer specifications are on the tire. Now I'm going to use the proper tools to check the tread and the air pressure to make sure that I have the right depth and I have the right air pressure through the valve stem. While I'm at it, I'll check the valve stem to make sure it's properly mounted secure, it's not broken, loose, or missing, it's not bent or rubbing against the rim, and as you can see, I do have a metal cap on it. And I hear nothing leaking out of it, right? There's no air leaks. Now I'm going to go ahead and move into my rim. I'll make sure I check my rim on the inner and outer walls, making sure it's properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. It's not bent, there's no hammering, it's true and round, both on the inner and outer walls. I'll also make sure that there's no illegal holes or illegal welds on my rim. Then I'm going to move to my lug nuts and check all my lug nuts, making sure they're all properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. Now, there's no rust streaking on the rim or any shiny metal on the rim that would indicate a loose or broken lug nut or stud. They're all in good condition. From there, we're going to go ahead and move to my traffic monitoring device, which is the mirror bracket. It's properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. It's not bent or cracked or damaged in any way. It's in good condition. We'll go ahead and move here to the side light. Now this side light serves two functions. It's a left, a right turn signal, and it is a 4-way emergency flasher. It is amber in color, and it's properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. Now in this truck, the batteries are located under this steps, and they're in that box locked away, and they are properly mounted secure. The batteries are not broken, loose, or missing. They're not sweating or leaking anything, and the cable connections are also properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. I have no broken wires or damaged wires at all. They're all connected properly and in good working condition. From there, we're going to go ahead and move on to the DEF. As I mentioned on my in-cab inspection, I'm going to make sure that I have a minimum 1/8 of a tank. So my DEF tank is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. It's not cracked or leaking anything, and I do have a cap which is in place and in good condition. From there, I'm going to move on to my fuel tank. Now, my fuel tank, or my diesel tank, I'll make sure that they're properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. I do have a minimum 2 metal straps with a rubber gasket in between, or a rubber seal, which is also properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. I'm going to make sure that this fuel tank is not leaking. There's no puddling under it that would indicate I had a leak on this fuel tank. It's not bent or damaged at all. I'm also going to make sure that I do have a metal cap with a chain and a T-bar that'll keep it in place. And I also have a rubber seal, and all those items are also properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. They're not bent or cracked, and it will not allow any leaks to come out. Now I'm going to mention here that if I forgot to recheck the frame here, here's a chance to recover. I'm going to check the frame the same way I showed you earlier over there, if I didn't mention it earlier. But we did mention it, that we're going to check the frame all the way down. From there, we'll go ahead and move on to the rear of the tractor. Now we're going to go back here and check the lights in the back of the tractor. I have 2 red tail lights. They're properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. Those lenses are not damaged or cracked in any way. They are red in color, and they serve 4 functions. My left and right turn signals, my 4-way emergency flashers, my brake lights, and my running daylights. I also have a clear light, which is my reverse light, and that one's also properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present. Now, the last thing I'm going to check on the back of the tractor here is the DOT reflective tape, making sure it's properly mounted secure. It's not cut, ripped, or torn. It's not. It is a little bit damaged, and I might want to get it replaced. So if you do see some things that are damaged on your truck, but it's passable like this, then go ahead and mention it. Otherwise, you can go ahead and move on. Now, from here, we're going to go ahead and back up and start checking the coupling system. Now, in here, we're going to check the coupling system. We'll start with the airlines. The red one is my emergency, the blue is my service, and the green one is my electrical. They're all properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present. I'll make sure that they're properly connected to both the tractor and the trailer. Now, the airlines have no abrasions, bubbles, or cuts, and I hear no leaks coming out of those airlines. And my electrical is not cut, ripped, or torn. It's properly mounted secure. I see no exposed wire or excess electrical tape. And I also have the proper clearance from the catwalk to the wires. Right, they're not dragging, that'll cause damage later on. From there, I'm going to move on to my glad hands and my rubber grommets in between those, making sure they're properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present. The rubber grommets are not dry or cracked in any way, and they're in good condition. Now we're going to go ahead and move to the trailer. Now I'm going to go ahead and start off with the top. I have clearance marker lights up in that corner. They're amber in color, properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, missing. All the hardware is present, and they are my marker and my clearance lights. For there, I'm going to move on and check the DOT reflective tape down the length of my vehicle, making sure it's properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. It's not cut, ripped, or torn. It's in good condition. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the landing gear. From here, we're going to check the landing gear and sand shoe. So I have three pieces. I have a landing gear, I got my sand shoe, and I also have a crank handle, which is located on the other side of this trailer. Some trailers have the crank handle on this side. Now, all three of those are properly mounted secure. They're not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. They're not bent, cracked, broken, or damaged. The landing gear is also free from debris that's going to cause any issues down the road, falling off. And we'll check the crank handle once we get to the other side. Now we're at the rear of the trailer. Here I'm going to mention that I'm going to check the frame like I mentioned earlier on the tractor on both sides. I'm going to recheck it the same way. But if I didn't check it, I'll recheck it here, and I'll go through the whole statement, properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, missing, all the hardware is present. But if I checked it correctly, I'm just going to give them a simple, I'm going to check the frame the same way. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to this red side light, which is a marker light. It is properly mounted secure, and it's not broken, loose, or missing, all the hardware is present. It is in good condition, the lens is not damaged or cracked in any way. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the rear. Now in the rear, I like to bundle all my lights and say I'm going to check all my lights, making sure they're all properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, or missing. All the hardware is present. They're not damaged or in any way, and they're in good condition. Now I'm just going to separate color and function. So up top, I have 3 ID clearance lights, and I have 4 bigger red tail lights here. Those are also red in color. These 4 bigger red lights serve as my left, right, turn signals, my 4-way, emergency flashers, my running lights, and my brake lights. I'm also going to mention that I have a clear license plate light under here, which is properly mounted secure, not broken, loose, missing, all the hardware is present, it's in good condition. The last thing I'm going to check back here is my DOT reflective tape. I'll make sure that my reflective tape is properly mounted secure. It's not cut, ripped, or torn. I have enough of it back here, and it's all in good condition. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the passenger side of the truck. Okay, so right here, I'm going to go ahead and explain to the examiner that I'm going to check this whole side of the tractor and trailer the same way I checked on that side, but I'm going to give myself a few minutes if I'm done, or I'm going to note a few differences. Now this tractor does have one difference, which is my crank handle that I mentioned earlier. So we'll go ahead and move over there and check the crank handle. As I mentioned earlier, that I checked the whole side of this trailer the same way as I did the other side, but I'm only going to show this one difference, which is my crank handle that's located over here. Now my crank handle, it is properly mounted secure. It's not broken, loose, or missing. It's not bent or cracked or damaged in any way, and it does raise and lower my landing gear properly. I'm also going to mention that it's currently put away in its stowed position. All right, you guys, from here, you're going to give yourself a few minutes. If you finish, just make sure that you tell them you're done. If you're not finished, make sure you point out anything else that you needed to point out. Here's where you want to give yourself a minute to think about, did I get everything? Is everything got? Now, I want to say, yeah, I got everything. So then I'm going to let them know this concludes my outside pre-trip inspection. Okay? Now, if you like the way we did our inspection, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. You can find us at cdlbasictraining.com or SoCalCDLSchools.com. We are located in San Bernardino. This is, once again, it's a Volvo, 2014 Volvo, day cab, 2-axle tractor, and a 28-foot trailer. Now, I'm currently doing my pre-trip according to California's list. So we do have a checklist. You are allowed to use the checklist at the DMV. They might even ask you, do you have your checklist, or did you get everything on your checklist? And if you did, that's when you conclude. Now, the last thing I could say is like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys. Give us a follow, leave some comments, and have a good day.